Hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm Samantha Winona. This is Winona Reads. Today we are going to be doing the August wrap up. I read 16 books in August, which I feel like it felt like the longest month ever, so it kind of makes sense that I read that much, but it also feels like I didn't read that much. Technically, I read 15 full ones. I did DNF 1, so let's get into it. I am going to start with what I read at the beginning of the month and then work my way towards what I recently finished. The first one that I started off the month of August was Becoming Free Indeed by Ginger Duggar Vuolo. That one was an audiobook I got from Library FM, I think. And so here's the thing. I love listening to audiobooks as far as memoirs. I love it when they read their like the author reads their own work. There were some interesting aspects to it, but I rated it 2.5 stars. I'm not sure how to really explain what it is about. In my point of view, it read as just an overlisting of reasons why she diverted herself from how she was brought up to how she is now as far as religion and like family dynamic, but like not a lot was touched on. It really just felt like this is what I once believed in, this is how I was brought up, and now with the help of like my husband and some of my sisters, this is, you know, how I'm teaching my kids and how I'm living my life now. And it was just very redundant, very repetitive, and like by halfway through I'm like, why am I even listening to this? Like it was a little unfortunate because I didn't really watch their show growing up, but I know of them, and I think the whole family dynamic and their situation in general is just very interesting. And so I was looking for something different than what I got, and that's fine. I think what she set out to do, she accomplished. However, I don't know. I don't think I meshed with the writing style. I think her writing, like I said, it was very repetitive. It was very, here's an example of this, here's an example of that, here's like, and so after a while it was like, okay, I'm good. I don't think I'll be reading more of her stuff. Anyway, so that one I rated 2.5 stars. After that, I listened to the Takeover by T.L. Swan. I rated that 3.5 stars. That one was definitely better than the first one, I thought. So let me actually look up the series, because one, I don't remember. This is the problem with some of these romances. I don't remember the characters' names. I remember what it was about, but I don't remember their names, and I don't remember what the first book was called. So let's see. Okay, The Mile High Club, number 2, The Takeover. Okay, so it was Tristan and Claire. Tristan is a rich guy, obviously. He takes over companies that are on their last leg. They're, you know, about to collapse, go into bankruptcy. And so he takes these businesses that he has faith that they can do it. He refinances, puts all the money into them to have them succeed. Claire's business, I don't even remember what she does, but her business was starting to go under. She met with him as like a last ditch effort and ends up dismissing him. Doesn't want to take the deal, doesn't want help. I don't know if she's too proud or what. She doesn't want him to redo a company that she's grown. Understandable. So I don't know how much time goes by, but they have their meeting, and then however long after they end up like meeting, they go on a date. And then he realizes that she's a mom, she has these kids. He ends up going to her house, and her like front yard is like chaos. She has 3 boys, different ages. There's, you know, bikes in the yard and skateboards and all this stuff, and the house is just chaos. It's loud. And the son, obviously the husband is just, well, not obviously, but she's a widow, so the husband is deceased. And so he comes in, I think, to either pick her up for a date, or she said it wasn't gonna work, and he was coming to like tell her why he thinks it would work. And one of her sons like pushes him or something and he falls and twists his ankle. It's a whole thing. And I thought it was funny. I thought it was interesting. What I really liked were the parts that it was like Tristan's thoughts of her kids and like, wow, this effer's crazy, and like, just, I don't know, it, like, as a parent, it was really funny to hear, like, yeah, obviously he doesn't have his own kids, and so stepping into a situation with 3 boys, all different ages, like, I don't know, it was a very cute dynamic to read. And then the way that it wrapped up at the end was like super cozy and, you know, happy ever after. I thought it was worth the listen. I definitely liked it better than the first one, so I would definitely recommend that. I thought it was cute. After that, I had started the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankenweiler by E.L. Koningsberg, and I'm pretty sure this was my August jar pick. I did not finish this. I DNF'd. I got 40 pages in, and I just didn't feel like pushing myself. It is a rather short book, so I am kind of mad that I didn't push myself to read the last 100 pages. And I probably will pick this up before the end of the year just to get some numbers down from my bookshelf. Still working on reading what I already have. But yeah, this was about a girl named Claudia who wanted to run away from her family. She has other brothers. She picks one brother specifically to run away with. She maps it out. She saves her money. Her brother has money saved that they kind of mesh it all together. They decide where they're going. The librarian, I think, is the one that's telling the story. I just wasn't in the mood for it. I felt like it was very, very slow, which is kind of surprising for a children's read to not have much happen. It's a lot of talking right in the beginning. So I obviously think the more that happens, probably the more that picks up, but I just wasn't vibing with it, and I just felt like I was, you know, reading the same page over and over again, and for a children's read it just wasn't worth it at the moment. So I did DNF that one after 40 pages. Oh, I forgot. Okay, I don't know where the next one is, so I will have to put a picture up here, but I do have it. The one after that that I read was The School for Good Mothers by Jessamine Chan. I rated that 4 stars. That was infuriating, but I loved it. It was so good. That was about a woman, I have to look up her name. I know it starts with an F, I just can't think of what it is. I'm sorry, this is my terrible, awful memory. Frida, okay, Frida. Frida is a mom who is trying to balance a work-life schedule as a single parent. Her husband meets somebody and starts his own family, but he is still very much involved in Frida's baby's life. So she is trying to figure out how to be a parent on her own, how to get work done, and she decides to leave her baby in the exerciser. For those of you that don't have kids, it is basically like a walker, but like a jumper. So you put the baby in, they're kind of stuck there. They can't really do much besides what's in front of them. Some of them spin around. They have toys on the outside. You can jump, you can bounce. And she plops her baby in there and then goes to work. And I would never do that. I think a lot of parents would never do that. However, the frustration of, you know, missing sleep, being sleep deprived, trying to figure out that work-life balance, and as a single parent, I'm sure is very overwhelming. So she does that. Somebody reports her. They come and assess the living situation. They take the baby and give the baby to the husband or ex-husband, the dad. And then she is, instead of going to jail, she is told to do this program to become a good mother. This is when it is infuriating. At first, I was like, okay, she deserves a class. Like, why would you leave your baby in an exerciser? She, like, come on. And then she starts the classes with these other women and hears the other women's stories and is told by these teachers, this is how to be a good parent. And then you are given a fake baby, which is like AI kind of. They cry, they need their diapers changed, and they, you know, I think they grow, and they have like behavioral issues that you need to help assess and help talk them through and all of this stuff. You cannot lose your cool. You cannot be human, basically. You need to regulate this child and do all of the things for this child. And you cannot slip up once. And if they think that you are not doing it the correct way, they will tell you, or you will not pass the class, and then you don't get your kid back. If you do not treat this AI child simulation like your own, then you are also reprimanded. The most infuriating read, I kid you not. First of all, pretending like basically a robot baby is your own has to be the hardest thing, and they need to like really pull it off and make it so convincing that they have love and adoration for this thing that isn't really human. But in order to get their kids back, they need to appear as though there is a bond. It's indescribable, and her writing was so well done. I was listening to it while I was reading it, and it was just so good. I recommend it. But it also sadly doesn't seem that unrealistic. Like, I think that's the cringy part, is that I could see stuff like this happening someday. 4 stars. That was really good. The ending was something. Go read it. After that, I read the graphic novel Spy Family Volume 3 by Tatsuya Endo. There's not really much more to say than what I've already said about the series. It is a guy who is in a relationship, a fake relationship. He's married to an assassin. They don't know what each other does, and then they have a kid that can read minds. So she knows both of her parents, but they don't know what the other person does, and she can read their thoughts, and she goes to this special school, and it's all for this project, or what's the word I'm looking for, assignment that the dad is in. It is, more things are developing. It is a little bit frustrating at times, because you're like, just tell each other what you do for a living. Just tell him you're an assassin. Just tell, like, obviously they're not going to, because if they were normal, then you'd be like, hi, I'm an assassin in real life. But like, his job line, if she says, hi, I'm an assassin, he'd be like, great, let's work together. So it is a little bit of an interesting dynamic, but I love it. I love the graphics, and I am going to continue it. I've been doing like one a month, I feel like, as far as graphic novels. I just haven't really been in the mood for them, but maybe this fall I will be getting back into it. After that, I listened to the Soulmate by Sally Hepworth. That one I gave 3.5 stars. Oh no, I didn't listen to that one. I read that one, and I gave it to one of my friends to read, and that was one of my book of the months that I had from a couple months ago, I think. I rated that 3.5 stars. That was about a family that lives on the edge of a cliff. People sometimes take their lives at that spot, and the husband goes out to talk them down, and it usually works. This time he didn't. Sorry, I can hear my daughter downstairs. So this time it did not work. Come to find out, the person that had jumped was his ex-business partner's wife. You get a little bit of background story from them. You get a little bit more insight. So you get a little bit of his personality, his marriage. You get a little bit of the business partner, and then so his ex-business partner comes kind of lurking around to see, asking his neighbors questions, and there is a lot of twists and turns. There was a lot that I didn't expect. There is a family dynamic that comes into play between his ex-business partner and himself that I was not expecting. And I also I can't decide if I wasn't expecting the ending or if I was just underwhelmed with the girl that took her life, or the woman that took her life. Because I feel like towards the end it really focused on the business and familial aspect and less on the woman that jumped. I don't know. I feel like it disconnected at the end for me. And that's why I rated it 3.5 stars. I think it was very interesting and it kept my attention throughout the whole thing. But then when it started focusing on other aspects, it kind of unraveled a little bit and it wasn't as obviously put together. Like linear maybe? I don't know. The ending was just... it's hard to explain unless you've read it, so I'm interested to see what other people think. I did loan it to my friend because I did think it was interesting, so I'll be curious to see what she says. But if you've read that one, let me know your thoughts on that, because I just wasn't sure how to rate it. After that, I listened to All the Dangerous Things by Stacey Willingham. I rated it 4 stars, which is interesting because I don't remember a single detail from it, but apparently I liked it. Let's take a look. Okay, I remember this. Oh, yes. So her toddler went missing, and then somebody had asked her to do a podcast, and as she was doing the podcast, other things started to unravel. I am not gonna lie, I don't remember the first half of the book. I remember when things started to unravel and then the ending. So I'm surprised that I rated it so high, realizing that I'm not really, like, my memory with the beginning of that, I really don't remember how that starts. So that's weird. So stuff starts coming out, or more details start coming out about her son's disappearance, and then come to find out somebody else has her kid and she gets her child back in the end, which is a very interesting wrap up. I feel like that doesn't normally happen. So I do remember the ending. The ending was well worth it. Maybe that's why I rated it so high. But there is a lot of details I do not remember, which I'm not sure if that speaks about narration or just my memory. But after that, I listened to The Good Sister by Sally Hepworth. This was 3.75 for me. I said it was well worth the listen. I'm not sure why I feel underwhelmed by the ending. It has twists and was in fact thrilling. I just finished it and felt, okay, what's next? That's valid. But I do remember the entire story, so give or take a little bit. I don't remember the names though, so let me see. It was about twins. Rose and Fern. Okay, so Rose and Fern, they're brought up by a mother who is very unstable. They kind of lean on each other. There is a, well, it's not very subtle. I think it's pretty much out there, that Fern, right? Yes, Fern. They are twins. I knew it. Ugh. See my head. Okay, Fern has a little bit of a disability. So there is a little bit of representation in that with her relationships with other people. She does work in a library and she's not really friends with her coworkers. She doesn't really know how to communicate with them, with the customers. And then she gets a boyfriend. Her sister, Fern, is supposed to be trying for a baby with her husband, and her mom is in a home. She had some sort of accident and that left her needing full-on attention, full-on care, and Rose, because of her upbringing, does not want anything to do with the mother. Come to find out as the story unfolds, Rose was lying. She is not trying for a baby with her husband. They are separated. She said she was like on a vacation to go visit him. Not the case. He's been here the whole time. Fern is very trusting of her sister. She believes everything that she says, and unfortunately that is a detriment to her. Fern and her boyfriend end up carrying a baby. She ends up carrying a baby. Her sister talks the boyfriend out of it as far as supporting, and then, not to give too much away, but something happens with the mom in the end. The thing that I thought was really well done was the ending and the closing. I don't know if it was an epilogue or not, but the last few minutes of the audiobook, I remember being like, wow, that is twisted, and I hope there is a second book. So I do remember those details vividly. I rated it 3.75, but I would definitely recommend it. I think Sally Hepworth's writing is very intriguing, and it does keep your attention the full time, which is the point of a thriller, so definitely recommend. I need to try to go faster because this is already 25 minutes and I still have a lot more books to go over. After that, I had read Natural Beauty by Ling Ling Huang. I loved this. This I rated 4 stars. You need to read this. This is so good. So good. So interesting. So this is about a girl who grows up with immigrant parents, and they teach her, they're piano teachers, they teach her how to play piano. She ends up becoming, I wouldn't say a prodigy, but she does get like a full scholarship to a really good school, and then things start to go south. She has a concert, her parents get into an accident after, they need medical attention 24/7, so they go into a home together, and she has to do other things to make an income and be financially stable for them. She is working at some kind of, I think it's a restaurant, I don't think it's a bar, I think it's a restaurant, and someone comes in and says, hey, I recognize you, I think you'd be a good fit for my company, come interview. So she interviews for this beauty company, and the more that she gets involved as an employee, the more intense the story unfolds. I had no idea what I was getting into with this, and as it started kind of giving away a little bit at a time, I'm like, wow, this is really good. And then by the end, I was like, what the heck did I just read? But also it was amazing. The aspects that I really loved were, it's so hard to explain how good her writing is. I really just do recommend this. So the company is supposed to be like this holistic beauty, you know, beauty products, supplements, everything to have your body, you know, good from inside and out. The products that they are using, the products that they recommend, are basically Americanizing these girls. But she is Chinese. There are other girls who work there who have Americanized names. Their, you know, characteristics look Americanized. Blonde hair, clear complexions, lighter skin tones. Come to find out, their names have become Americanized. Am I even using the right word? They're taking their culture and who they are, and by the supplements that they're using and the products that they're using, they're literally stripping away their cultural identity. That's what I'm trying to say. And then more stuff happens after that. Like insane stuff. I'm like getting closer and closer to the camera. I'm like, read this. It was very good. Very good. I want to read it again. It was that good. After that, I did it. Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. This was another really good one, which also had cultural discussion about cultural issues. Athena and June are somewhat friends. Athena is Asian and June is white, and Athena passes away from a traumatic accident of choking, and June watches the whole thing and then walks over to her desk before leaving and takes her manuscripts and some other work and takes it for herself. She does add her touches to it through editing, but yeah, she steals her work. There's a lot more than what I'm saying, so I definitely do recommend. I rated this 4 stars as well. I don't know why it does that. That just stopped filming because it said motion not detected. I'm not moving around enough. What was I saying? There's a lot more than what I am saying about this book. There are a lot of ties into not only literature, like how far in the editing process do you, like, what's the give and take as far as having something be your own? Like having an idea from somebody else and then creating the entire thing. Is that plagiarism because you got that idea from somebody else? Is it plagiarizing when you have half of their words on a page? I'm gonna say yeah. Is it plagiarism for, you know, taking a manuscript and then editing it and making it your own? What's the credit level there? That was one key issue. And then the other key issue is, you know, being an Asian author and then being a white author and having different discussions about the same things and having two completely different answers. There's so much invested in this. I love her writing. You just have to read it. You have to read it. This is well worth the hype, I think. I would reread that one again as well. Loved it. After that, I read Open Water by Caleb Azuma Nelson. I had seen another booktuber recommend this on his channel and rate it very highly, of course, and so I wanted to give it a try. I did pick it up this year, probably a couple months ago. It was a rather short read. I read it on vacation. It's like 160 pages. It's so poetic. The writing it's done very beautifully. It is about a African-American couple who while she's in a relationship, he's not. He wants to be introduced to her. It's like love at first sight almost. Then they become friends. They're hanging out. I think there's like a question of like, how much time do we give it before we become an item? There are discussions about race in society. There was a lot to unpack within the short amount of pages that this is. I do see why it is highly rated. I rated it 3.5 stars. I think the writing is very beautiful. It's very poetic. There's a lot of prose. I wrote down every single song that was listed throughout reading it. I underlined a bunch of beautiful quotes, but also important emotional, mental aspects. I think it is very interesting as far as a Black writer and a man to get into his thought process. Like there's times where she's like, what are you thinking about? And he's like, nothing. No, really, what are you thinking about? Nothing. But then like you see his side and what he's really thinking about, and it's, his friend being killed on the street. So there's a lot to unpack. I will say I think that I rated it a little bit lower because I just felt like sometimes the prose and the poetics got in the way, if that makes sense. And yeah, I don't know how else to say that. There were times where I felt like it would have been a more substantial piece if the writing wasn't trying to be so flowery all the time. I think that's it. But it was really good, and I do recommend it. After that, I read Under the Influence by Noelle Crooks. This one I recommend as well, and this was 4 stars. This is a new contemporary about a girl who is kind of wrapped up in I don't even know what generation it would be, honestly, but it's like the newer generation where, you get a Instagram message, hey girl, want to join this? Hey girl. Like, I feel like that was so like 5-6 years ago, maybe more, but that's what this is about. Basically, this is her let's be honest, it does seem a little bit like her experience from the Rachel Hollis Corporation. However, I'm sure there's a lot that is fictionalized. This is addicting for sure, definitely bingeable. I do think it is a great read if you're in a rut and looking for something to fly through. Harper is employed by Charlotte, who owns the Green Company. There are talks about her, what it means to be a person of social media, what it means to have presence on social media, and finding power within business, and also making a brand of yourself and whatever you're trying to put out into the world. There is a lot that is brought up about our culture today, and it is a little bit eye-opening in the sense of like, this isn't a very like powerful piece. I'm gonna say that. Definitely like chick lit, you fly through it, but some of the things that are underlying within the messages in this are well worth the read. What our standards are as a society having so much freaking focus on social media. Like, this made me want to have another detox from social media. But yeah, Harper is employed by Charlotte. She starts coming into the corporation, trying to rise up. She rises up fast and is kind of eating whatever her boss tells her, you know, giving her, this is how your social media presence should be, this is how, you know, you need to do this, this, and this, and you need to post this, and here, be in this post with me, and you need to do this, and really just selling her on the gimmick. And she eats it up, and then she realizes, I think there's a little bit more here. And at first I read it and kind of like started getting into the mindset of the character, and I was like, do we really believe this lady? And then it seemed like she was really believing Charlotte, and then you're like, wow, like sometimes they really are that endearing that like you want to follow their stories. And I don't know, it's twisted in the sense of how much we rely on media. So yeah, I recommend that. I think it was definitely interesting. The only thing I didn't like about it was because it is on the label, like the back flap, that she worked at the Rachel Hollis Corporation. I didn't like the stuff about the husband in the book, because I did really feel like that probably was her, like, this could just be my brain. You know, it's not, nobody's called out by name. It's not like Charlotte is Rachel. There are similarities. It is a fictionalized story, but just how closely everything played out so similarly between this book and real life, and the fact that Rachel's ex-husband in real life ended up passing away. Like, I don't know, parts of like the husband parts were cringy for me, because it did seem based on somebody even though it was fictionalized. And now I don't know how to explain it. Some parts were just cringy. They were just cringy reading it now. But again, it's a fictionalized story. It's not based on people. It's not like they were name changes. So read it as fiction, and that's it. I gotta wrap my head around the fact that it's a story. After that, I read I Could Live Here Forever by Hannah Halpern. This was great as well. This was recommended by a family member. I gave this 4 stars. I loved it. I devoured it. I always say that. I devoured it in like 24 hours, maybe no, probably like 2 days. But this was about Leah, who meets Charlie. She is in a English writing program trying to become an author, and he is a addict. At the time, he was a former addict, and then he relapses, and then they start a relationship, and then he relapses again, and somewhere in between they get engaged, but then she moves away after the program is over. And I loved the idea, I loved the concept of the book. And the one thing that I didn't like was that I didn't really feel emotionally invested in the characters for some reason. I definitely read it as just a piece. Like, I think the writing was well done. I did love their story and how complex it was, how difficult. I loved the character development. I think it was very addicting and very well done. I just wasn't invested in the characters. Like, when Charlie passed away, I expected to like have some tears, and I was like, like, that's really sad and unfortunate. And so that was why I rated it a little bit lower, but I do highly recommend this. I think it definitely is a very interesting piece as far as like an eye-opener to having a relationship with someone who is an ex-addict, and the relapses and the behaviors, you know, and the emotions. You know, she goes from being scared to, you know, she's in love with this person, so she lets him back in over and over again. It was very difficult at times to read, very trying, but I think I understand why Emma Roberts was promoting this on her book account, because this was amazing. After that, I read Lonely Castle in the Mirror by Mizuki Tachimura, and this I rated 5 stars. This was beautiful. I would highly recommend, 5 stars. This was beautiful. So this is about a girl who, well, it follows more than one girl. However, it is a little bit kind of based on her. So what was her name again? Kokoro. So Kokoro is in school. Well, she's supposed to be in school, but she has bullying incidences where she decides she doesn't want to go back. And then her mom tries to send her to a secondary school, which is for kids who need a little bit more time, a little bit more stability, a little bit more attention and focus than just the public setting. And she still doesn't agree to go to that either. Her mom tries everything and eventually is just like, you know what, just stay home. Gets a little bit frustrated, but she does keep trying. And then her bedroom mirror starts glowing and she enters into this realm where there's a wolf queen and other kids who all apparently go to the same school as her, come to find out. However, there are interesting twists. I'm not gonna go into detail because I think the whole story is wrapped into one, so if I give a little bit away, it's gonna kind of ruin the whole thing. But I went into this knowing nothing, and at first it really started slow and I was like, I don't know if I can finish this. And I think it was just the mindset I was in, because once it started picking up, I could not put it down. And the ending pulled at my heartstrings. It was so freaking sweet. This is a book that has a lot of soulful writing in it. Yeah, I just cannot recommend it enough. It was so good. After that, I do not have the book with me. I gave it out to one of my friends, but I read Say Nothing by Patrick Radden Keefe, and I rated that 5 stars. That was a book about Northern Ireland, the war between the new IRA, the old IRA, and the British soldiers that were trying to, I don't even know what they were trying to do, honestly. And I did kind of touch on this in the last reading vlog. I don't really want to go into too much detail because this is already taking way too long of a wrap up. But it was very well done. I do recommend listening to the audiobook if you are reading it, if you are someone that likes audiobooks, because I do think it helped in certain areas. But then there were other areas of the book where you literally feel like you're in the setting, like you're in Ireland, you're watching stuff unfold. Like, just when he was talking about how like the instances where they were fasting in the jails and like how graphic it gets. They had to like force feed some people so that they wouldn't die. I think that's what it's the graphic detail. It's not overly done, it's not gory, but it's so informative that you literally feel like you are there watching it. He has a great writing style. I'm going to see what other books he has because it was very interesting. And I loved that, I believe he narrated the book that I was listening to, if that was his voice. I loved the aspect of his Irish accent with it. But yeah, highly recommended. I learned so much from that book, and that's something that I love doing when it comes to like nonfiction, is learning something that I didn't know before. And I clearly knew nothing about Ireland, but my grandparents are from Ireland, well, some of them. Just to like imagine being in a place where IRA are sent with bombs in cars and they go all over the city, and one by one the bombs go off, and like I don't think I fully wrapped my head around the reasoning behind these instances, so I kind of feel like I want to read other books on the topic. But again, it was just so enveloping as far as like this. I'm not doing a good job explaining how good it was, but just believe me, it was really good. And then the last one that I finished was Daisy Miller by Henry James. I gave this 2 stars. So this was about a girl named Daisy Miller, who is a beautiful young American girl. She is traveling with her mom and her brother, and meets Winterbourne, who is visiting his aunt, and not a lot happens. Basically nothing happens. I think it's like 60 pages besides like the introduction and whatever. It's a drama, And I think it has a lot to do with cultural differences, what Americans are like versus English, what is expected of people in society. And I was a little bit angry at the end reading it because I just felt like it was a very like harsh commentary on Americans back during that time. The more I sit with it, the more I think I like his writing and I understand some of the points that he was trying to make. I just still am sitting with an unsettled feeling of his writing being like, how do I word this? There's a narrator, so it is not one-sided. It's, I don't know what narration it is, but it is from all aspects. It's not like from somebody's point of view, it's just a story being told. I want to say that's third person, but I really am a bad English major right now. I really don't remember. However, the subtle commentary on the American manners and just the other things, like her mom not paying attention or like needing a man to tell her daughter what like behavior she should, just the way that it was written made it seem like his point of view was the same as Winterbourne's aunt, which was like very spiteful and looked down on the Americans. And I'm assuming it's because I'm American, I don't know, but I just didn't like his perspective. Like, I don't know, it just didn't seem, it seemed like there was an underlying hidden tone to it, but that could just be in my head. So I don't know, I didn't love it. I wouldn't recommend that as far as a classic. However, that is the 16 books I read in August. I am working my way through my September jar picks. I am already on book 3 out of 4, so doing pretty good so far this month. But yeah, I have a thriller that I'm in the middle of right now, and it's only September 3rd, so back to school this week, getting nervous. But that was my wrap up, and I hope to see you guys soon. And let me know down below what your favorite book was from August and what you're most excited about for September. And I will talk to you soon. Bye. I'm gonna say it again. Subscribe, please, if you like my channel. Thanks.